So this is going to be the first part of a 2-episode mini-series talking about IndyCar. And perhaps even calling it a mini-series is a bit cheeky. However, for me, the IndyCar series is one of the best out there. And I generally think this because for me, whilst it doesn't always have the best races compared to other categories every year, you're usually guaranteed to get at least a good race. I always head into an IndyCar race not knowing who comes out on top, or has an unexpectedly below par result. IndyCar racing is never predictable. That's not to say though that at times this year I have felt frustrated at what I'm watching, and that doesn't even necessarily mean the on-track product. And I felt like as the season was over, now was a good time to try and give my thoughts on what I think would help the IndyCar series. The second part of this series will revolve around what you, the viewer, thinks in the comment section, and I'll respond with my thoughts to some of the highest rated comments. Also, in this video, revolving around my opinions, I'll refrain from talking about a new car or engine formula, as I think there are other things that can make a difference with what the series currently has. Firstly, ovals. We kind of need more of them. Particularly, in my view, the intermediate style ovals. Milwaukee will be returning to the schedule, which will be a nice addition for sure, I guess particularly as it's a double-header, but unfortunately Texas has not been included due to scheduling issues. This is a terrible blow for the series in my view. The beauty of IndyCar is that you need a wide range of skill sets, with adaptability being one of the more crucial skills to have. Ovals are a key factor in this wide skill set. However, for me, the ovals have to be separated into two different categories. Gateway, Iowa and Milwaukee are short ovals, which in essence act like two long left-hand road course style corners, although Iowa's races had the tyre degradation elevated to 100 million. Texas and Indianapolis are completely different, especially Texas this year with the semi-pack racing that we got. As Texas is now gone, the Indy 500 is now the only superspeedway / intermediate oval race on the schedule. For me, there has to be at least another large oval on the calendar. Without it, IndyCar gets ever closer to becoming a series that is associated as being American F1, but with the Indy 500. Now to me, IndyCar is far more than that. However, if you're going to convince a new fan to watch IndyCar, I worry that all they're going to say is, well, this is just very similar to Formula 1. The closer IndyCar goes down this road of having fewer ovals, then the smaller the chance the series has at distinguishing itself against a resurgent F1. Adding more ovals is, in my view, the only way that will separate that fake bond that shouldn't intertwine the categories together by first-time viewers. Also, what's the point in having the oval kit when it's going to be used for one race? Whether that be the biggest race of the lot or not. To me, it just adds to this notion that the Indy 500 is its own separate thing and isn't connected at all whatsoever to the IndyCar Championship. Now again, as a huge IndyCar fan, I know that that's not the case. But like I say, try telling that to a casual. I would also like to add that I do understand that the Texas race was off the IndyCar schedule for reasons mostly outside of IndyCar's control. I bring it up because it's more that I just want to add my voice to the number of people who feel that there should be more ovals, particularly the intermediate tracks, on the schedule. Now, one thing that's not related to the series necessarily, but I think is something that is going to make a good difference to the general optic of watching an IndyCar race, is an updated graphics package. To me, the current graphics package felt a bit dated midway through 2021. Now after Laguna Seca 2023, it just looks exceptionally dull. This graphics package has been used since 2019, and whilst there isn't anything majorly wrong per se with it, to me, I can't help but look at broadcasts of the WEC and Formula E and think just how boring they are. To me, an exciting and dynamic graphics package is something that can make a defined difference to the overall aesthetic of watching a motor race, or indeed any live sporting event. I'm not sure how much say IndyCar has on convincing NBC to update the graphics, but if I were them, I'd let them know that that blue and black pylon on the left-hand side of the screen cannot return for next season. But sadly, I personally fear that this is something that will not be changed, and to me only adds to the dated feel that this series is starting to get into. Also, as a side note, maybe this is just an issue on the international broadcast side, but the audio quality of the cars sound really poor. It feels like it's distorted really heavily, which doesn't really allow myself to properly enjoy the sounds that these engines make, which, especially at full throttle, make a wonderful noise. What makes this issue even worse sometimes is that during the broadcast, the engine sounds can be way louder than the commentators. It seems to be quite a prominent thing at the start of races, as you can barely hear Lee, Townsend and James, who do an excellent job in the booth. I know these may sound like harsh comments when it comes to IndyCar as a series, because in some ways it's not their issues. However, a good broadcast can make a big difference. And even though those issues may just be an international broadcast issue perhaps, it's important that the series gives a good impression to everyone out there. I'm not expecting F1 levels of production from the broadcast because that's wholly unrealistic. WEC have an awesome graphics overlay, and the audio is always spot on, at the right level of hearing the cars and commentators. I'm not saying NBC or IndyCar don't care or don't want to put effort into the production of a broadcast, but when you have such an awesome commentary trio and amazing pit reporters, try and make the most of these brilliant individuals. Another thing I feel is a must is having a non-static camera broadcast of the feeder series ladder. I honestly don't know why this isn't something that hasn't been done already. If you want static cameras for the practice and qualifying sessions, then that's fair enough. But for the races, the cameras have to be operated by someone. USF Pro 2000 and USF 2000 are categories that I would rank at a similar level to GB3 and GB4 respectively in the UK. They are broadcasted at every round with people on the cameras operating them. How can that not be the case for USF Pro 2000 and USF 2000? When Miles Rowe won the USF Pro 2000 Championship this season, his winning moment was shown on the NBC broadcast as a static camera at Turn 1 of Portland as he did donuts. A moment of great importance for IndyCar, and indeed for motor racing in general, was not given the coverage it deserved, and it doesn't allow the drivers to get the attention that they need during a season. Plus, how are the drivers meant to benefit sponsorship-wise from this? The static cameras are often widened out to try and cover as much of the circuit as possible, so that as much of the action can be seen as possible without them being operated. But because of how unclose, not a word, the camera is to the cars, the sponsors will hardly get on air whatsoever. Especially for early feeder series categories, sponsorship is crucial. How is a sponsor going to react when they can hardly recognise their brand logo on a car during a broadcast? What incentive do they have to invest lots of money in a driver, other than said driver pleading with them to say that they're the next Scott Dixon, Alex Plough or Joseph Newgarden, even though that's what they'll all more than likely be saying to their respective sponsors. In short, please broadcast these races with camera people. It'll do not just those series a lot of good, but also IndyCar as a whole. That though is where I'm going to round this video off. However, I will say why I didn't include anything about a new car or engine formula. In essence, I'm fully expecting this point to be raised by a fair number of you in the comments, and whilst I do have some opinions on it, I want to see what you all think so I can then talk about it in more detail. Plus, I feel that if I talk about that in this video, then I fear I'll just be repeating the same things in the second part, which I want to try and avoid as best as possible. So I look forward to hearing what views you all have, but thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, or small rant, or whatever you want to call it, then I'd be enormously appreciative if you did hit the like and subscribe button. But until the next video, be kind to each other and enjoy the rest of your day.